Hello guys, welcome to my hermitage here, my new little flat where I am living now as given my visiting of the hospital, I cannot live in the cathedral anymore or do live masses anymore. So my last one unfortunately was last Monday, and here are the few words that I gave, starting with the line from the first reading, Peter's speech at the first Pentecost. It was impossible for Jesus to be held in the power of death in the tomb. And my point is, meditating on those words of St. Peter, it was impossible for him to be held in death, is a key to growing in humility. Because if we realize how amazing Jesus is, we become more humble, and humility is regarded by the saints as one of the most basic virtues. The lack of it, pride, is at the root of all evil, as there's a saying, but the saints have meditated upon that and how true it is. So what I started with is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi's little story about him. He said, if I believed what Catholics believe about the Blessed Sacrament, that the sacred host at Mass and in our tabernacles is really the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. If I believed what Catholics believe about that, I'd spend my whole time in church on my face. I would be so overawed by this. And we'll see in the gospel today is the ladies coming away from the empty tomb, and they bow down before Jesus and clasp his feet. I would guess they had, having spoken to the angels, seen the empty tomb, etc., etc., they had some of this understanding of Peter in his speech at the first Pentecost, where he said it was impossible for Jesus to be held in the tomb because of who he is. And then he quotes David saying, my body is going to rest in hope as well as my soul. You have made known the way of life to me. So it's this meditation on who Jesus is in the Blessed Sacrament can make us humble, to recognize that he cannot be held in the tomb. It is crazy to put the cornerstone of creation in the earth. It's a bit like if you decided to make your house a bit more beautiful and nicer and updated, not that it could happen, I don't think, but and you decided to take the most fundamental part of its structure, what was the cornerstone in the old days, and put it on a skip, put the foundations or key beams on a skip outside, then all the other work you do is going to be pointless. You're going to have no house left. It's going to fall down, however beautiful you make it. And that is who St. Paul, David, and St. Peter in his speech here is claiming Jesus is, compared in his flesh, in his very body, compared to us. He is the one in whom we were chosen before the foundation of the world. His body in the Blessed Sacrament is our exemplar, the model and the root of who we are biologically and spiritually. It's therefore crazy to try and bury him in our lives as well. And if we can recognize who he is, particularly in the Blessed Sacrament, then like Mahatma Gandhi, we will grow in true humility, the roots of all goodness, virtue, life. And it's interesting, in the gospel, we also have depicted the opposite of this, what will happen if we get this wrong, in that we're told, the gospel actually says, while this was happening, while they were on their way, that is to say, the women we have being humble, because they've experienced the earthquake, they were seeking him, they spoke to the angel, saw the empty tomb, intuited from all his teaching that he could not be held in the earth, not the one through whom the earth was made. They had that humility. And then we get this contrast. While they were on their way, it says, some of the guard, Matthew 28, some of the guard went off into the city to tell the chief priests. They held a meeting with the elders, and after some discussions, a considerable sum of money changed hands, and they said, this is what you must say. His disciples came during the night and stole him away whilst we were asleep. The opposite of recognizing who Jesus is to try to deny that he's trying to get through to us and trying to wake us up to the fact there is meaning in our life. We are made for something bigger, and that we're not the center of the world. We're not God. And those who were in power at the time, as is so often the age in history, try to deny that God is giving a message. And so they have the opposite of humility. They have pride, the root of all evil. We pray that that won't happen today in our country. But let me quote a few words just to finish with from Pope Francis in his Urbi et Orbi on the 27th of March, the special one he gave for the coronavirus pandemic. And he said these words: "In this world that you, God, love more than we do, we have gone ahead at breakneck speed, feeling powerful and able to do anything, greedy for profit. We let ourselves get caught up in things and lured away by haste. We did not stop at your approach to us. We were not shaken awake by wars or justice across the world, nor did we listen to the cry of the poor, and we carried on regardless, thinking we would stay healthy in a world that was sick. Now that we are in a stormy sea, we implore you, wake up, Lord." And so let us, by meditating upon who Jesus is, call to him to wake up. And so when he does invite us back to church, we will want to, as it were, through communion, clasp his feet and recognizing we're made for him. Our hearts are made for him, and they will not rest until they rest in him. So meditate on that speech, St. Peter in Acts 2, on Colossians 1, on Ephesians 1 and 2. Think about in this time who Jesus is, and ask as a result of that to be given deeper humility, the deepest, the safest, the most fruitful of all virtues. God bless. Bye.